Welcome to Q&A with Coach Rebecca. We are live and I'm here to answer your questions about all things performance, youth sport, parenting, and mostly the ideal mindset for performance. I am a high performance coach and my specialty is working with athletes age 8 to 18 on unlocking that mind-body connection so that you can become the very best athlete possible, which allows you to be happier, healthier, and more successful. And I do this in a couple of different ways if you're looking for some help in this area. I do one-on-one coaching, and also I have a complete online mental toughness training center, which is getting a huge facelift right now, and I'm super excited. I'll tell you a little bit more about that after I go into today's topic. So if you're here live and you have a question for me about anything performance, please feel free to type it in, and I will do my best to get back to you. And then I'll dive into our topic of the day, which is, it's a big one. This is one that I essentially do 90% of my work with clients on. It's mental blocks. And for those of you who are not familiar with what a mental block is exactly, a mental block is, it happens to gymnasts, it happens to trampolinists, it happens to ice skaters, it happens to divers, it happens to baseball players and tennis players. And essentially, it's when a skill that you've done over and over, you've done it repeatedly, maybe it's a simple skill, maybe it's something scary, but typically it's not the scariest skills, but something will happen where you can't do it anymore. It just won't happen for some reason. I've seen it happen with tennis players where always when they're serving for the point, they cannot serve. Something goes horribly wrong. Or it happens with golfers where they have a short putt and then they tense up and it won't work. I see it happen with gymnasts where they have a skill, a lot of the time are backward skills or giants on the bars, something that's scary, but usually it's something that they've done before. All of a sudden they start to go and boom, it's like they're hitting a wall and their body will not let them go. And I get all these emails from parents that are like, how can I get my kid to try harder? How can I get my kid to push through this? And that is not the question we should be asking. So I'm going to give you guys a little crash course in overcoming mental blocks so that you'll have a better idea of what that phenomenon actually is. And I will specifically talk about gymnastics because that was my sport and that is where most of my clients really come up against this. But please, if you're in a different sport and you can relate, feel free to change my examples to fit your situation. So one thing that I get a lot is this sensation that the fear is coming out of nowhere. Like fear is this beast that hides in a bush that's just going to jump up and get you whenever it feels like it and take all your skills away, and you're just going to be there sad by yourself not doing anything. And that, I'm amazed at how many kids I talk to and they're like, I just don't know why it happens and I don't know when it's going to happen, and I'm scared that if I do all this work to get my skills back that they're just going to disappear again. What I've come to realize is that it's within your control. There's something that you can always do, and it's not just this unpredictable beast in a bush. It's instead more like a domino effect. So you've got this whole series of dominoes that once they've all fallen down, then you've got this, seems like insurmountable fear issue. But there's always a first domino. There's always something that starts the fear. There's always some event or some pressure or something, and it doesn't have to necessarily be a fall. That's why people get confused because they go, my kid has never fallen on this event. I don't know what her problem is. I don't know why she won't just go for the skill. I don't know why she won't just do it. Well, the thing that's happening is that your brain is actually physically preventing your body from going in those situations. So it doesn't matter how much the coach is yelling at you. It doesn't matter how important the meet is tomorrow. It doesn't matter any of that. It doesn't matter how bad you want it. If your brain is not letting your body go, there's nothing you can do. Well, I'm going to tell you what you can do, but you can't force it. And some people have actually had the experience where they're at a competition and it's really important and they actually can force their brain to make their body do the skill, but then it doesn't last because it doesn't actually help you solve the problem. So those first dominoes, they can be things like you're trying to tumble and something feels weird. Like, ooh, that was a weird turn. That kind of spooked me. But then you're like, oh, okay, fine, whatever. And then you try maybe another one and you fall. Or maybe it's okay, but you still are feeling just strangely like you're lacking confidence. And then you kind of push that down and you don't listen to it, and then you try it again. And then you try it again and you hit a wall. And then you're like, what is going on with this skill? And you try it again and boom, you hit a wall again. And then you're kind of overanalyzing, like, what should I be doing here? Should I change this? Should I try that? And then you go and try that and you hit a wall again. And your confidence is shrinking and shrinking, and your anxiety is going up. And then the frustration typically with coaches or with teammates are like, come on, dude, just go. It's all just ramping up to the point where finally the coach will, give you a, like, ugh, fine, just stop doing it. We'll come back to it. They throw this kind of guilt, shame feeling on you about not being able to do it, which you've already got going because you feel like you should be able to go. But that whole sequence of events, it seems like it just came out of nowhere and happened, and all of a sudden you can't go. That's what it seems like. But what's really happened is that you didn't listen to your brain. There was a teeny tiny little whisper coming from your brain that was, whoa there, for some reason I don't feel confident right now in this skill. And that's all it is. It doesn't mean, whoa there, you're gonna have to spend the next year and a half being afraid of this skill. It's just, I don't feel confident right now in this skill for today. And what I like to teach my clients to do is to start listening to that little voice in your brain that's there to keep you safe. And your brain will stop your body from going if it senses one of two things. The first thing is if your brain senses the possibility of pain. So of course, if you've ever been injured on a skill, then that's pretty obvious that your brain's not going to want you to go and get injured again. And then the other is the fear of the unknown. Now that's super vague. It's like, okay, what's unknown and what's known? Well, I boil that down to confidence. And if your confidence is not high enough, then your brain is going to go, things could go wrong here. So we're just going to go ahead and not let you go, body. Sorry, we're not going to go for that because I don't think that there's enough confidence here to try it. So we're just going to skip this skill. And no matter how hard you push, it's not going to work. So how do you start listening to your brain instead of ignoring it? And what people typically do is they go, gosh, brain, come on, you're getting in my way. I really need to do this skill right now today in this certain way. When your brain's like, forget you, and it crosses its arms and becomes a 5-year-old with his heels dug in and goes, fine, then I'm not doing anything. I'm not going to do your back walkover on the beam. I'm not going to do your giants. you're not even going to do a kip today because I'm so mad that you're not listening to me. And instead of being mad at your brain, what you need to do is start going, hey brain, how you doing? What do you need right now? Do you need a spot? Okay, let's get you a spot. Do you need a mat? Why don't we get a mat? Why don't we go ask for a mat? Would you like to go on the tumble track and work that up for just a couple minutes and build your confidence back up? Okay, let's do that. Now here's the problem. You can't always go do that because your coach might be like, you don't need to do that. We don't have time for that. Just go try the thing. And in that situation, I actually advise my kids to not necessarily listen to their coach. And I know that all this stuff is super controversial, and I was a coach and I would have hated it if a kid was like, I'm not doing that, I'm sorry. And that's not what we're doing. It's not like, no, I'm going to be a jerk to my coach. It's actually walking over to the coach. And this can be hard for kids who are people pleasers or who really don't like to rock the boat, but actually walking over to the coach and, tapping him on the shoulder and saying, hey coach, for some reason, I'm not feeling confident on this skill today. Would you be willing to give me a spot or two so I can rebuild? Or would it be okay if I went to the tumble track and just tried a few so that I can get my brain feeling a little bit more confident? And your coach might look at you like, what are you talking about? And they might spot you, they might not. But ideally, if you know exactly what you need, which in those moments where something feels funky or you feel afraid, if you balk and you hit a wall, if you do it more than twice, that's it. There's not going to be any forcing it. Your brain has already taken over. You have to back it up and go to a different progression. You have to communicate that to your coaches. And coaches, if you're listening, you have to let the kid back it up. Parents, you have to let the kid move at a snail's pace. I was talking to a woman earlier who was like, my kid is like, I need this mat. Now I need half a mat. Oh my gosh, now I need this mat. I need another mat. And I'm like, yeah, good for her. She does need those mats, and let her use them until she can get over the hump of the fear, at which point she can start phasing them out and building confidence, and then she's going to be back in good shape. Excuse me. So bottom line here, there are lots of kids who are super talented, or they learn skills really fast. And what happens is that then they have something that derails them. You know, there are a million different things that can derail them. And then they don't know how to go back to the beginning and start over a little bit. And then the parents, excuse me, oh my gosh, I'm getting over a cold. Parents they don't want to support their kid through this process. And then here's the big issue is that, okay, so let's say I get my skills back. I have this mental block and I work through and I get all my skills back, and then it comes back again. That fear monster jumps out of the bush and gets me again. And this, I just was working with a girl who was moving through her progressions faster than I had ever seen anybody do it, which should have been a clue. Like, okay, we need to actually slow down and calm down. And then because she had had all this pressure, like, oh, I'm getting all my skills, I have to do all the skills ever, and I have to do them all right now, then she ended up falling. And she didn't hurt herself, but she spooked herself pretty good. And then mom's like, oh my gosh, we're back at square one. And you know what? We're not back at square one. This is an opportunity. Anytime you hit that wall, you have to stop and go, what was that little voice telling me before I took that turn? And I'm guessing the little voice in there was telling you, I need a little bit more confidence. I need a little something before I go. It doesn't feel right. And if it doesn't feel right, that is okay. That has to be okay. And I know, of course, you know, if you're training at the elite level, you do not have time to stop and go rebuild a skill. But for those of us, you know, who are in gymnastics in like a mid-range level, who are finding themselves having issues with mental blocks, you've got to get in the habit of allowing your brain to be in charge. Because here's the thing, your brain is in charge, whether you like it or not. And if you don't let it be in charge, it's going to take charge by stopping you from going. So your job, for those of you, anybody who's watching or listening, if you are struggling with a mental block, your job, just for a week, try it. I want you to listen to your brain. What is your brain telling you? Not what is your parent telling you, not what is your coach telling you, not what do you want to do? It's what does your brain need? I want you to just ask yourself that question anytime that you start to feel hesitant, or especially if you hit a wall or you freeze or you balk. You ask your brain, what do you need? And then your job is to get out of your comfort zone and get your brain what it needs, even if you feel like you shouldn't need that. Try that out, and then that's the foundation. So once you've got that in place, the ability to actually sit and listen to your brain. So your brain can start to feel like, all right, body's listening, body's cooperating, then I'll give a little, you give a little, I'll give a little, I'll try a little something. Then you start to make some momentum. That's when you can address things like the negative talk or the self-esteem or any of those other things that might seem like they're causing the problem. Those are definitely tied in. And a lot of the times when people are, you know, getting blocks and losing them, getting them, losing them, there are other things at play. Like maybe it's something going on at home. Maybe it's a coach. Maybe it's bullying. Maybe it's something totally unrelated that has them stressed out. Those are things that do need to get untangled too. But really, everybody, the first thing you have to do is just start listening to your brain. So that is my little spiel on that for today. If you guys have any questions, let me know. I don't see any in here right now, but recap. If you are blocking, I only want you to balk twice before you back it up. If you balk more than twice, your confidence has gone down to the point of no return for that day. I mean, it's not no return, but really it just makes everything so much harder. If you're balking twice, just back it up. Listen to your brain. Oh, thanks, Lori. Lori says it's so comforting. There's someone out there that gets our kids. I was this kid, and you know what? I still in life today as an adult come up against fear. And it is so hard, you guys, because once you start making some progress, you want to just dive in full out. You want to be like, great, I'm going to try everything. And then that, you know, you hit a wall, you end up having to take steps back, and it can feel hopeless. But it is not hopeless. That's just your brain communicating to you. Your brain is telling you, okay, we need to back it up. You went a little too fast. And that's all it is. There's no judgment. There's no emotion. There's no, you're a bad person and why are you behaving that way? It's just, hey, what does your brain need? Cool. No big deal. Let's get you that. All right, guys. So if you have any questions, you can always email me at rebecca@performhappy.com. Oh, and I said I would mention, I am completely reworking the Perform Happy site right now, and I'm super excited. It's going to be way more user-friendly. It's going to be fun. I'm actually creating a 7-day challenge on building confidence and a 5-day challenge on working through fear, along with the 6 trainings I have on overcoming fear. And then all these bonuses like trainings for parents and a whole tons of trainings on finding your flow. So if anybody has free time this summer, or of course, like who has free time ever, or if you have a mobile device and you can take it with you on your travels, I would love to have you guys in the Perform Happy community. So look for an email if you're on my list for the relaunch specials coming up. And reach out if you need me, and I'll see you again next week. Bye, guys.